Joe Burrow, who a week from tomorrow night will hear his name called, we expect, as the #1 pick in the NFL draft by the Cincinnati Bengals. During a radio interview yesterday, Burrow was asked about the prospect of playing for a franchise that has not had a lot of success of late.
The draft is funny because you don't have, not a lot of professions pick you. So, whatever team I go to, it's going to be a challenge to begin, and I'm going to have to persevere through it, and just like I've done in the past. You might have a really good first year, you might have a really bad first year. You don't really know, especially without OTAs this year, and you're going to have less time with your team. So there's going to be ups and downs for sure. You're just going to have to battle through it.
All right, so Laura Rutledge is up with us early this morning. And Laura, obviously you've covered Joe Burrow as closely as anybody has, and you know him well. He had nothing but success a year ago, and now he's going to a situation where no matter how good he is, there will be struggles. How confident are you that he has what it takes mentally to deal with whatever it is that might come next?
Well, Greeny, we're not even talking about Joe Burrow right now unless he was able to work through challenges the way that he has so far in his career. A lot of people forget because they just think about the success of Burrow from last season. This guy came from Ohio State, where he lost a quarterback battle to Dwayne Haskins. He was close to winning it, unfortunately had an injury, and then was out of the mix, out of the running. Very frustrating for him, and then could never really climb back into the mix there at Ohio State. So he transfers to LSU, which his first year at LSU wasn't all smooth sailing. People didn't think that he was this next coming of finally the quarterback that they've been waiting for in Baton Rouge. And by the way, LSU locker rooms have eaten quarterbacks alive for years. So it wasn't necessarily an easy situation to come into. I think when you think about Joe Burrow and the adversity he's already worked through, he's a guy that no matter what comes his way, he's always betting on himself. And it helps to have people around him believe in him, but he always believed that he could have success no matter what it was. And I think that translates well to the next level. One final point on this. Every time Joe Burrow would have an interview after a game, after a big win last season, you might have noticed he would stand at the center of the field and take a deep breath, almost look around, survey what had just happened. I was standing next to him a couple of those times, and once I asked him about what that was, he said it's just being thankful for it, also knowing that it took a lot of work to get to that point.
All right, it's an interesting thought. I tend to agree with you, and I want to bring Nika into the conversation here as well. I agree with everything you just said. The flip side of it would be, because we know how the college coaches feel about this transfer portal, that when he didn't win the starting job at Ohio State, he transferred. Rather than staying there and sort of sticking out a bad situation, he chose to go somewhere else. That's what some might say in response to what you just said. Laura, quickly, how would you respond to that?
Yeah, what I would say is that he wasn't going to play quarterback at Ohio State, so he had to do what was best for him, for his future, and it worked out in a great way. So I don't have any criticism toward him for doing that, and I think too we're going to just see more and more of that. It's the new age of college football.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'm sure there are people who would think the other way. Nick, as I come to you here. We keep talking about Cincinnati as though it is sort of the NFL version of Siberia. The reality is, if you look at the numbers over the last 10 or so years, they aren't as bad as that perception would seem. How far away do you think they are, if Burrow turns out to be good, from becoming a good team?
Well, I think they have a lot of really talented weapons on that team. The offensive line isn't great, which could be an issue. But if they get a healthy A.J. Green back, they have Mixon and John Ross, a speedster who I really like, and Tyler Boyd, a really effective receiver. That's a good group to throw to, and that defense needs some help maybe in the back end. But they got Geno Atkins, they just signed DJ Reader, and they got Carlos Dunlap coming off the edge. That team has some talent in some key positions, and we're not exactly sure what they have in their coaching staff just yet. But if that coaching staff can put together a scheme, they could be on the rise pretty quickly. They could add a few wins, and I think you can look back over history, and sometimes all you need is just the quarterback to come in. I think we just saw Cam Newton there. He's a guy who, when he jumped in, they went from 2 wins to 6 wins. That may not sound like a lot, but that's a huge boon, particularly if your team is not very good. And the Browns is kind of another example in Ohio of a team that we think of as just kind of a can't-get-right franchise, but they went from 0 wins to 7 wins when they added Baker Mayfield. So I'm not so sure that when Joe Burrow gets there that they don't take a big jump, because they have a lot of pieces there. Maybe the missing piece is a healthy, talented quarterback.
Yeah, well, we'll start to find out. They got a young coach who believes in offense, and we'll see what Burrow can do. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.